Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bird Notice. Billy here. Leading off, Tyler Wells and Kyle Bradish each have surgery, and Nick Avila is claimed off waivers from the Giants. But Ryan, what episode number is this?
This is episode number 48, which was worn by Andrew Miller in his short stint as an Oriole. Miller, a 6'7 lefty, was drafted by Detroit with the 6th overall pick in 2006 out of UNC and made his major league debut that season. The 10th ranked prospect by Baseball America in 2007, Miller was traded that December to Florida in the deal for Miguel Cabrera and Dontrell Willis. After 3 poor seasons as a Marlin, he was traded to the Red Sox for peanuts and made his last career start on September 8, 2011. From then on, Miller was a reliever and his career took off. He was acquired by the O's from Boston in a 2014 deadline trade for Eduardo Rodriguez, and he made 23 regular season appearances with a 1.35 ERA and 34 strikeouts with 4 walks in 20 innings. In the playoffs, Miller allowed 0 runs on 1 hit and 1 walk with 8 strikeouts in 7 1/3 innings as the O's lost in the ALCS to the Royals. He signed with the Yankees as a free agent that offseason, receiving Cy Young votes in 2015 and winning the Mariano Rivera AL Reliever of the Year award. In 2016, he made his first All-Star team before a trade to Cleveland, where he was the 2016 ALCS MVP before they lost to the Cubs in the World Series. He broke the records for most strikeouts by a reliever in a single postseason with 30 Ks, and the longest scoreless streak for a reliever at 15 innings. Miller was an All-Star again in 2017 for Cleveland and spent his final 3 seasons in the major leagues as a St. Louis Cardinal, retiring at the age of 36. As a reliever, Miller had a career ERA of 2.95 with 724 strikeouts in 504 innings pitched, and was even better in the playoffs, throwing 38 2/3 innings with 54 strikeouts, 13 walks, and 4 earned runs allowed for a 0.93 ERA. You got a 48?
I do. We could use an Andrew Miller in the bullpen right now.
Yeah, that's an understatement, but I think every team would say that.
I don't know if I'd want to trade Eduardo Rodriguez for him, though, again. Like, that's the kind of move you have to win the World Series for it to pay off.
Yes and no. I mean, he performed to that level for the Orioles, no doubt. But yeah, after that he was gone, and you didn't have Eduardo Rodriguez. But they were a good team that year, and it didn't work out. But if they won a couple more games, maybe if they even just made the World Series, people were like, "Yeah, that was a great deal. I'd make it every time."
Yeah. It reminds me of the Cole Ragans. Is it Reagans or Ragans?
Either way,
Reagans.
I know who you're talking about from
For
Texas.
Yeah, for Chapman trade. Pretty
Right.
much the same thing. But yeah, I got Greg Zahn. I think I've talked about him before, but who cares? After Zahn wore the number 48 during the 95 season, nobody wore it again for 17 years until Nate McLouth in 2012. He hit the foul pole, by the way. And it's been worn every season since. Zahn, a switch-hitting catcher, was the Orioles' 17th round draft choice in 1989. He had 2 stints with the Orioles. In 95 as a rookie 25-year-old, and then he later came back to Baltimore at the age of 38 in 2009. In between, he'd play for the Marlins, Rangers, Royals, Astros, Rockies, Blue Jays, and he also spent a spring training with the Expos before finishing up with the Rays and Brewers. He won a ring with the 97 Marlins. On August 23rd, 1996, the O's traded him to the Marlins for right-handed pitcher Terry Matthews. His 2009 return to Baltimore came to an end on August 9th when the Orioles traded him to Tampa Bay for left-handed first baseman Ryan Hughes, who I enjoyed watching with the Tides over the course of 3 seasons. He spent 2011 to 2017 as a broadcaster with Sportsnet in Canada, but was fired after an investigation into complaints from several female employees.
Jeez.
He then embarked on a coaching career in 2023. He was hired to serve as the catching/hitting instructor of the Glacier Range Riders of the Pioneer League. On February 21st of this year, he was named the manager of the Lexington Legends, who are currently in last place in the Atlantic League South Division with a 14-36 record, 21 games out of first place.
Could be better, I suppose.
So a real fall from grace for Greg's on there.
It's kind of funny he worked for the Blue Jays and played for them because I'm looking at his baseball reference page and the town he's from in California is called La Canada. I'm assuming they pronounce it like Canada or something, but it's just kind of a funny name.
I thought you were going to say Ontario. Isn't that a town in California?
Yes, that is a town in California. No, just La Canada.
Yep, Greg's on. So I guess we can dive into some news here. What do you know about Nick Avila?
Nothing.
Yeah, me. He was claimed off waivers from San Francisco. In 8 relief appearances, he had a 8.49 ERA with a 1.714 WHIP. I'm guessing the Orioles are interested in his 10.8 Ks per 9. He's 26 years old, a 26th round draft pick in 2019 out of California State University in Long Beach. And the Orioles had an open 40-man spot after DFAing Corbin Martin, who snuck through waivers and ended up back with the Tides, which was nice.
I would have guessed there was only one Corbin on the Orioles 40-man. Didn't even know the other dude.
Yeah, he got there a couple months ago. I think from the Brewers also, ironically.
This Avila, those numbers you were reading sounded eerily similar to Levi Stout from last week. And I was like, probably not much there. Except Stout did have, I think, a third-round draft pedigree, and Avila was 26, you said?
Yeah, I guess the difference there is he was... Oh, no, he wasn't drafted out of high school. I was going to say he was drafted out of high school, but no. 26th rounder.
Hey, whatever works. Doesn't seem like it has so far, and I don't have faith that it'll change, but whatever.
Yeah, Norfolk has no pitching this year. That just shows how hard it is to find even bad pitching.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
I wouldn't... Ooh, there was some good pitching there. I'll do this now. Julio Teheran, he's made 3 starts for the Tides. We're going to ignore the first one because it was really bad. But in the last 2, he's pitched 12 innings. He's allowed 8 hits, 3 earned run, 5 walks with 7 strikeouts. And after Suarez's performance today and against the Yankees, I think we might see Teheran pretty soon.
We could. I don't know. Do you think it's worth giving him a shot? Do you have faith that those last 2 starts are not just an anomaly?
Man, I don't know. I guess the question is, who would you remove from the 40-man?
I don't know. How about that new guy?
Well, it'd have to be a 26-man also. So he'd have to jump the 40-man and get on the 26-man. So who would you remove from the active roster? There's always Vespi.
Yeah.
They're always looking to send him down.
I don't know. That's a good question. There's not a lot of wiggle room right now with all the injuries, so.
Right. And Povich, you kind of want to see more, but, they're always willing to send down a rookie.
Right.
So keep your eyes peeled for Julio Teheran. And I guess the big news of the week is Kyle Bradish having Tommy John surgery and Tyler Wells going on the 60-day injured list. His 60-day appointment opened up a 40-man spot for Nick Maton, so he's probably going to be DFA'd pretty soon. He hasn't played once since being added to the active roster.
He got in. Didn't he get in the end of the Yankees game?
Yeah, you're right. He's at the very end.
I don't think he hit, but I think he just played the field, right?
They gave him the David Banuelos treatment.
Right.
Yeah, pour one out for Kyle Bradish. What do you think? Do you think all next season is compromised?
I would think so. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I read that Bradish had like full-on Tommy John, and Tyler Wells had a different procedure that's like, I think it was maybe Rock Kabako said Wells's recovery is usually around 12 months for that surgery, and Bradish is 14 to 16.
Yeah, it's something about an internal brace, which I guess braces the ligament in place. I have no idea, but
yeah,
I think we covered Kyle Bradish enough last week. Unless, if you didn't know this news was coming, if this is a surprise to anybody, welcome to the pity party. I don't know how anybody didn't see this coming.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. We don't need to talk about it much, but I don't expect really anything from him next year. If that was what you originally asked.
That's the worst part of this, I think. Like, this year is bad enough, but now you don't have him for next year.
Right.
And, we all know Burns has got 1 foot out the door.
That's what we're presuming. We don't know that.
His quotes, though, also seem to pretend like hey, this is going to be fun for a year, and then show me the money.
Yeah.
And then Maton, he was out of the roster because Westberg was injured when Juan Soto trampled into him on a routine play. I didn't think the play was that. I think it was just bad timing, but
Yeah.
they couldn't call up Norby because Westberg was able to avoid the injured list. Over under Wednesday. When do you think Nick Maton is DFA'd?
I don't know. I mean, the series just wrapped up in Houston today, so it might be a good time for it.
He's out of options, so that adds a wrinkle to any move they want to make. Because he is very good minor league depth, and that's difficult to find this time of season. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody claimed him. He does have major league experience.
Maybe he'll go play with his brother in Tampa.
I was fairly certain that they had him on the fringes of the opening day roster till his epically bad spring training performance, which caused them to go out and get Tony Kemp.
Didn't he go 0 for or have like one hit in the whole spring training?
If I remember correctly, he was like 0 for 20 or 0 for 30.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I think you're right. He like batted 0 in the entire spring.
And he missed like a week or two with some minor injury. Yeah, he did not have the type of spring you want to have with a new team.
Right.
And more bad news, Danny Coulombe had some bone chips removed. They hope to have him back by September. You holding your breath?
It sounds better than getting something done on a ligament, right?
Yeah. I feel like they should prepare themselves like he won't be back, just so if he does come back, it's like, oh, cool. He's back.
Yeah. I mean, if by prepare themselves you mean go acquire a lefty or something, then I'm all for it because they don't really have any that are any good at this point.
I don't know. I hate the fake trade proposals that people throw out there because nobody knows who's available or isn't available. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I when I was younger, I would eat all that stuff up, and then as you get older, you realize that that stuff's pointless and people don't actually know what they're talking about. So I just stopped reading all that speculation stuff.
It's just noise. That's all NBA coverage is fake trades. It's nauseating. With the baseball trade deadline, though, like Jason Lockenfor still cries about last year's trade deadline. There was nobody available. Jack Flaherty was one of the top pitchers moved at the deadline last year. It was either him or Michael Lorenzen. I mean, Jordan Montgomery picked up after he was traded, but going into the trade deadline, people weren't like clamoring for Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know anything, and I think it's a waste of time trying to figure it out.
Yeah. That's it for the new Dean Kremer. He had a bummer of a rehab start last night against the Iron Pigs. Did you see this?
I saw the line. I don't remember the specifics, but I know it was very bad, and he didn't last very long.
2/3 of an inning, 5 hits, 5 earned runs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout, 2 home runs allowed. All of this came in just 39 pitches when he was scheduled to throw 75 pitches.
Yeah, that sounds like something's wrong.
Yeah, I hope not.
Because you wouldn't yank him with 40 more pitches planned if he was fine. Like, yeah, he's getting knocked around, but they don't care, you know?
Right. Hopefully it turns. Start. Yeah, I know people love to say rehab starts don't matter. I'm here to tell you they do. Because otherwise they wouldn't send you on a rehab start if they didn't matter. Like, no other sports really do rehabs. I know hockey does, but not to the same extent that baseball does. Football, there's no rehab. NBA, there's no rehab.
Yeah, you would think like if it didn't matter, they'd just have him throw a couple bullpens and it wouldn't be against, live batters or in a live game, right?
Oh my God. That's probably like my biggest pet peeve is when people say rehab starts don't matter. I honestly think they say that just to protect themselves from looking foolish in the event that they do have bad rehabs and then come back and pitch well or vice versa. If he craps out in a month and can't finish the season, like this, hopefully this is nothing. We don't know yet. Like we don't know until we know. But if he craps out in a month, this is exhibit A. You know what I mean? Like when John Means had those bad rehab starts last year and this year, they both foretold future problems.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't sound good to me that he would come out well before his planned pitch limit. That's all I'm taking from it.
Right. And the team can't afford to lose another starter. So I guess the bright side is maybe they'll find out where he's at before the trade deadline so they can make even more of a panic move than they were scheduled to.
Yeah, I mean, their luck so far has just been terrible, and it's just, I mean, if you average it out between last year and this year, it's probably about normal because they got very lucky last year.
Yeah, I think everybody took that for granted last year. That the biggest injury didn't come until what, like 4 weeks left in the season with Bautista?
Whenever Felix got hurt.
The Rickwood game. Did you watch the Rickwood game?
Um, I tried to, and I turned it on too late. That's what happened.
I watched everything. I watched the pregame. I passed out in the 8th inning. I thought it was incredible, though. I really can't even put it into words. I don't want to say anything stupid either, so I think the event spoke for itself. I'll just say I think it was long overdue for these leagues to get recognition with a showcase like this and with their stats being counted last month. It's also overdue for some amends to be extended. You know, nothing will ever make up for the injustices that occurred, and that will continue to occur in various forms. And my only hope is that somehow young black athletes will rediscover baseball because the game needs them to be the best game that it can be.
Right, that's very true. And it was a real bummer about Willie Mays, of course, who actually started his pro career at that stadium when he was 15, I believe. That's how good he was.
Yeah. A lot of people wanted them to wear number 24 during the game. I didn't think that was necessary. They put the huge 24 behind home plate. I thought that looked cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you keep doing stuff like that, it kind of loses its luster, right? The Jackie
Thank you.
Robinson thing is cool, and don't they allow players to do it on Roberto Clemente Day as well?
I think only former Pirates can do it on Clemente Day.
Only Pirates. Oh, that's interesting. That's kind of cool. It's like an extra little wrinkle.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't like the Clemente argument either. If you keep doing something, you lose the shine, like you
Right.
said.
Then they're gonna
Yeah.
have like, when some old utility guy who played 6 innings in the majors dies, they'll have his number on their jerseys, and it's like, come on, what are you doing here?
I wonder where Buster Olney stands on this topic.
Wear 35 for Messina.
Did you
even though
see
he's
Reggie
alive.
Jackson? Yeah, that was. It's all in the documentary, which I talked about a few times last season. So watch the documentary; it's great. Reggie was great in the pregame,
Yeah.
and then seeing and hearing Barry Bonds for the first time in a long time, it reminded me of how important of a figure he is to baseball. And he should be celebrated. Technically, he broke no rules. I know that's like a cop out, but he didn't break any rules. And he should be in the Hall of Fame. He doesn't need to be embraced, but I don't think he should be blacklisted either.
Now, correct me on this because I don't remember the details, but David Ortiz was cited in some report, right? Was it the Mitchell report or somewhere? I don't think he ever tested, but it was his name was associated with steroids, right?
If I remember correctly, he tested positive for a test that was promised to be anonymous. Like it was like a study.
Okay.
And then whatever lab got the results leaked it to whoever.
Okay. Because I was just going to say, speaking of Bonds, is Ortiz was on that stage, for lack of a better word, in that pregame, along with Bonds and A-Rod and Jeter, and he's in the Hall of Fame now, and Barry Bonds is not.
Right, and Rodriguez isn't in the Hall of Fame, but he's been like welcomed back into the game by just merely being an announcer, and he put a bid on the Mets. He could have been an owner. It just doesn't make any sense.
You kind of like forget about Barry Bonds in a way, the person, because he is pretty private now. He was the Marlins hitting coach, I want to say.
Yeah.
And whatever happened there, he no longer is. And yeah, you don't hear much from him anymore.
Yeah, hopefully he can just be recognized. It's hopefully this is like the first step in him being able to be celebrated to some extent. The Pirates are retiring his number later this season, so hopefully that's another step.
Okay. I mean, he still looks in great shape. He's way smaller than he was.
Yeah.
He looks like an offensive lineman who retired and lost all his playing weight. But he looks like he could still hit some dingers.
A huge part of his problem was he did not get along with the media, the writers who vote for him. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just time. Seeing him talk, it just reminded me like how important he was to the game.
Yeah. He really was.
Where do you think the next special event should be? Someone said the Grand Canyon.
I mean, I would hope it'd be an existing ballpark. Like, do they do that? Do they build ballparks out of nothing? Even
Yeah,
the Field of Dreams game, that technically was a field already.
what I thought was hilarious after the Field of Dreams game happened was there was report. I remember Frank Thomas was involved in it, of a group of businessmen who wanted to buy up a bunch of land and put hotels up around it. I was like, that defeats the whole purpose of having a game in a cornfield, is that
Right.
it's surrounded by nothing, not this fake downtown you want to build.
Yeah, that would just be like most of suburban America. Like, here's some strip malls and an office building to put next to your baseball field.
I remember we were podcasting in the off season, and you pulled up the picture of that stadium where the Utah baseball team plays.
Oh yeah, with the mountains.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Somewhere like that.
Right. That would be cool, actually, if they did some type of like college series where once a year they play at an iconic college stadium or something, just for something different.
Because they've played at Fort Bragg and then the Little League field, of course.
And they've done some, like, they did the London games this year.
That'd be cool if they played somewhere with no TV. It could only be reported
via radio and print.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Still photos.
Call it like the game that never happened or something.
Yeah, they could do something. And Australia, they like baseball. I mean, it's not their number one, but they have cricket stadiums. They could do something like that.
I'm trying to think of a Rickwood type old timey stadium. Hagerstown had that old stadium, but they just tore that down. Had you ever been there, the Hagerstown Stadium?
No.
They used to celebrate Willie Mays there too. I guess he played there.
There's Doubleday Field in Cooperstown. They do events there every year around the induction weekend. It's a cool little old stadium.
Maybe one of those Cape Cod League stadiums.
Some of those are like legit like high school fields.
Yeah. All right, I guess that's enough. But yeah, hats off to the Rickfield game. That was awesome.
Rickwood Field.
Rickwood. I found out the guy who built
Springfield.
Ooh. The guy who built it, his name was Rick Woodward.
Really? That's why it's called that?
Yeah, so it's Rickwood.
That's actually funny.
The pictures of the new Birmingham Stadium are incredible. That place looks really nice. It's like 10 years old.
So did Michael Jordan play at Rickwood Field? Did the Barons play there? Or was that
somewhere else? I had that
else?
same question, so I looked it up. The Barons played there until like 87 or 88, and then they moved out to, I think, the suburbs, and the Barons shared a stadium with a college team.
Okay.
And then I think they might have even returned to Rickwood, and then Birmingham built the new stadium. So Michael Jordan missed it. I
see. That would have been a cool little trivia fact. They talk about these great Negro League players, and it's like, and Michael Jordan.
Yeah, he should have went to the game.
Yeah.
Wearing his old Birmingham jersey.
He would have just overshadowed all the baseball players, though. They probably didn't
That's true.
Because no matter how famous you are as a baseball player, you're not Michael Jordan.
Yeah, Michael Jordan's like a one of one. He's an alien almost. Did you see that movie Air? Where it's Matt Damon and Ben Affleck?
Yeah, that was good.
That was so good. But this goes to what you were just saying, where he's so larger than life that they didn't even put him in the movie about him.
Yeah, and the guy who played him was in it for like a few minutes. Like, you don't even know who he is, because I don't even know if he said anything.
No, I think they only showed the back of his head at one point.
Right.
Yeah, the whole movie was just everything that existed around him.
Uh-huh.
That's a good movie. But yeah, you got a Yankees preview?
Yes. The O's and Yankees had played one series before this, with the O's taking 3 of 4 at Camden Yards in late April into early May. The Yankees were 50-24 before this series, 1.5 games ahead of the O's for first place in the AL East. The Yanks were 22-10 at home before this series in the Bronx, and the O's were 22-10 on the road, so the same record. The Yankees were leading the league in runs allowed per game while ranking in the top 3 offensively. So they were a very well-rounded team that was getting its ace back in this series.
Yeah, we started off game 72 Tuesday. Albert Suarez versus Nestor Cortez. Aaron Boone took the day off to attend his son's graduation, and Ben Rice made his major league debut because Anthony Rizzo fractured his arm. I think Ben Rice might be a keeper. They should probably just eat Anthony Rizzo at this point.
Wally Pipp and Lou Gehrig, would you take it that far?
Yeah. A much sadder version.
Yeah.
Oh, remember they all wore the number 4 for Lou Gehrig a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
That's another.
Yeah, you're right. They do that on is it the anniversary of his death, I think? I don't remember the actual
Maybe the
date
day he
they
made
did
the
it.
speech.
Okay.
But yeah, we picked this off in the bottom of the first. Juan Soto would run into Jonathan Westberg while Westy was making a play on a ground ball. Soto runs into him, is called out for base runner interference. Westberg leaves the game. Then news breaks that Connor Norby was being removed from the Tides game. So that enabled everybody to immediately go into panic mode about the status of Westberg's hip. Yeah, I feel like Soto tried to stop from colliding with Westberg. I think he's just like a big oaf, and just it was bad timing too, where the ball led Westberg into Soto, blaming the victim here.
I know a lot of O's fans were mad and blaming Soto and saying he did it on purpose, but to me it seemed pretty clear that he was watching the ball initially and not watching where he was running, and then all of a sudden he realized Westberg was there and he tried to get out of the way and couldn't. But also at the same time, I was pretty sure Westberg wasn't actually injured there. It didn't look like anything, and he still got up and tried to make the play. So I wasn't thinking like, oh, he, tore his ACL or something.
Ooh. And Soto could have been severely injured too if they got tangled up bad enough.
Right.
He's like a giraffe.
Yeah, that was not a good start for either team, really, in the first inning.
Bottom 2, Suarez walks Gleyber Torres. He goes to third on an Austin Wells double. LeMahieu hits a shallow chopper to Gunnar at shortstop. He comes up firing to nail Torres for the second out at home plate. Great play. But Wells would eventually come home to put the Yankees up 1-0 on a Volpe single. Anthony Volpe was very good in this series.
Yeah, he was. He lived up to the billing more this series than the last time I thought they played the O's.
And bottom of the third, here's where things get interesting. Suarez hits Aaron Judge in the hand on a 1-2 count. Verdugo singles. There's runners on the corners. No outs for Stanton, who brings them both in. It's 3-0. What'd you think? You think they plunked Aaron Judge on purpose, like every Yankees fan seemed to think?
No, not at all. Especially the way Suarez was pitching that game, I think you should have understood that the ball was not exactly going where he intended.
Yeah, the Albert Suarez ride has gotten pretty bumpy the last week, which shouldn't surprise anybody because he hasn't pitched in the major leagues in 7 years. He just walked in off the street one day at the Orioles complex and convinced them to let him start pitching.
Yeah, there's all types of stories of athletes having a few good weeks or months or games, and I think this might just be one of those.
And things got real panicky for the Yankees and their fans when Aaron Judge was pinch hit for in the 4th inning.
Now we've both got a guy out. Not that Westberg is Aaron Judge, but you got fans on both sides who are mad and think the other team hurt them on purpose, and it was just kind of a shit show if you're on Twitter, at least, following with all these irrational people like ourselves.
Bottom of the 5th, Keegan Aiken would hit Gleyber Torres in the hand to start the inning. He'd score on a sacrifice fly. So this one was definitely intentional.
Right. We can say that.
And top 9, Santander hit a 2-run homer. His first home run and 131 batters faced by Clay Holmes this season. So it was good to see him get roughed up. It's also his first home run allowed since August 28th, but the O's would drop this one 4-2.
I was surprised they got that homer off of Holmes because I remember the last time he pitched against the O's, he looked unhittable. Not that it mattered.
Yeah. I guess it just was like the lone bright spot in a tough game.
It was a very tough game.
I did give out 3 stars. Number 3, Nestor Cortez. He improves to 5-1 lifetime versus Baltimore. He threw one high to Gunnar, retaliating for the Judge and Torres. This wasn't surprising. But if a Yankees pitcher is going to throw a retaliation pitch at Gunnar Henderson, I kind of want it to be a guy like Cortez, who is very good with his control and doesn't throw very hard.
That's one way to spin it and look on the bright side.
Yeah. 3 of their 4 runs came off of walks and hit by pitches, so that cost the Orioles this game. The Yankees didn't hit any home runs in their little league stadium. And what sucks, though, is Gunnar has emerged as the guy who is going to be thrown at in these situations. And I can think of about 25 other guys on the roster I'd nominate before him to eat a pitch.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's how sports work, right? You don't target the last guy on the bench if you're trying to get back at a team.
Aaron Boone, I gave him the 2nd star because he did show up in the 8th inning after his son's graduation, after Brad Ausmus filled in. And then I have a question. Do you think Ausmus makes the lineup, or does Aaron Boone leave the lineup behind?
Good question. I don't know. Is Ausmus their bench coach?
I think so. He has previous manager experience.
Yeah.
I can't remember with who. I think the Tigers.
I know he played for the Tigers. I think you're right. I think he managed them as well. I don't know. I would imagine Ausmus has a discussion with Boone about the lineup every day. So maybe Boone said, you know what you're doing. Go ahead.
I noticed they batted Soto 2nd and Judge 3rd. And this goes into my ranting about Gunnar Henderson batting 4th. Like, the Yankees have this figured out. Why can't the Orioles? And Gunnar should bat no. They had him batting 4th again today, and they had Mountcastle batting 2nd.
I don't know. He bats leadoff most games.
Right. Yeah, if you don't bat him leadoff, just bat him 3rd. Anyway, I'm going to bitch about that all year, I think. Because they keep doing it.
Yeah.
And Ben Rice, number 1 star, Major League debut. Rice batted 6th. He got his first hit. There was a funny moment when he went to slap hands with the first base coach who wasn't paying attention, so he just grabbed his hand and started shaking it. It was very funny. And he's 25 years old, a 2021 12th round pick from Dartmouth. He had 15 home runs between AA and AAA this season and a 925 OPS in 60 games.
Seems solid. Hope he's
big
not.
Dude.
But
big left-hander too. I think he could take advantage of that short porch.
Also, the O's were 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position, walking 6 Yankees, including 5 by Suarez. So they really had no business winning this game. And they didn't.
Yeah. We forget, too, that Suarez is 34 years old, so he might not be up for lasting the whole season. Wednesday, Cade Povich versus Garrett Cole. In terms of experience, you can't really have any more polar opposite ends here.
That is true. The defending Cy Young winner, Garrett Cole. Season debut didn't get off to a great start, though, when Gunnar led off with a double. 2 batters later, O'Hearn hit one of the ground rule variety, and it was 1-0 O's.
Jim Palmer missed this game. He announced he had COVID. He seems to get COVID a lot. Have you noticed that?
You know, I haven't heard of people getting COVID in a while, but I think it's because most people stopped testing. But maybe he's just big into testing for it, and that's why. And most people now are like, oh, I just don't feel good.
Yeah, we had Dave Johnson's on the broadcast this week. That might be why they lost 3 in a row. Kind of the viewers lost.
Right.
Bottom 1, Yankees spend this inning pushing Povich to the brink. Volpe singles. Soto hits into a fielder's choice. Stanton and Verdugo walk on 9 pitches to load the bases with 1 out. I was like, this is really bad when this was happening. Torres then makes Povich throw 11 pitches. He did hit a foul ball grand slam at one point that the Talking Yanks put out as a highlight, which was hilarious. He settled for a sacrifice fly to tie this game at 1. Povich threw 32 total pitches in the first inning.
Second start in a row by an Oriole to walk 5 batters. So not what you're looking for, especially against the Yankees. But things did calm down for a bit as there were no hits until the 5th when Mullins led off with a single. And Garrett Cole was replaced by Ron Marinaccio. Marinaccio's first batter was Ramon Arias, who went deep to left center for a 3-1 Orioles lead.
Yeah, the look on Cole's face from the dugout was priceless after Urias hit that home run.
You figured he wouldn't last super long into the game, so it made sense, but it was unfortunate for the Yankees, but not for us.
Yeah, he was pulled after 62 pitches. Mateo then hits a swinging bunt. Marinaccio panics and yeets the ball into right field, sending Mateo to second base. Marinaccio then gets Henderson and Rutschman before walking Mountcastle, and Yankee killer Ryan O'Hearn would rope his second double to right, scoring Mateo. It's 4-1 Orioles.
Cionel Perez got out of a jam that he put himself into, walking 2 to load the bases in the 6th before Orioles legend Jahmai Jones flew out.
Yeah, the 2 that Perez walked were the 7th and 8th hitters.
Yeah, he's not good.
Jones pinch hit for Grissom, who started in place of the delicate flower Aaron Judge. Jones would swing at the first pitch and fly out to Mullins in center, stranding the bases loaded.
In the 7th, Victor Gonzalez of the Yankees hit Gunnar, and Tommy Canley came in with 2 outs and 1 on. Ryan Mountcastle doubled to score Henderson and make it 5-1.
Yeah, there's no doubt this hit by pitch was on purpose. The Yankees really disgraced themselves here, I thought. Because they threw at him the day before. Like, that should have been enough.
I'm of the camp that you never actually know for sure when it's this much later, you know? If it was like the inning after they had hit Aaron Judge and they hit Henderson, I get it, but it was the next game in the 7th inning. So I don't know their reasoning, but it didn't work out for him at least.
I'm saying it was on purpose. And I'm going by his reaction too. Like when Suarez hit Judge or Torres or maybe both of them, he looked at him like he wanted to apologize, but you can't really do that as a player. Have you ever noticed that? But Gonzalez just looked dead in the eyes, and he got what he deserved 2 days later when they DFA'd him.
I mean, you could also look at it like the Yankees kind of gave him a raw deal. Like, go out and hit this guy, and then we're going to DFA you.
What was up with the umpire? He didn't issue a warning. He even had this look on his face. I almost took a video of it. He started to smirk, and then he got his composure back.
That was weird.
I don't know.
Just inviting the O's to hit somebody after that.
Yeah. They could have started this game under a warning.
Right.
So where did I leave off here? Henderson would steal second after the hit by pitch, which is also hilarious because if you're going to hit Gunnar Henderson, he's probably the best base runner on the team. He's not the fastest, but he's up there, and he might be the smartest.
I'd say Mateo's the best, but I see what you're saying.
It's not Mullins.
Or Mullins.
Not after that St. Louis.
That first base thing, yeah.
Mountcastle would double in Henderson, so it's 5-1.
Perez gave up 2 singles to start the bottom of the 7th, and Yanier Cano was brought in to face Giancarlo Stanton. But Stanton hit a 3-run bomb to make it 5-4, and it was suddenly an uncomfortable game if you're an Orioles fan.
Yeah, that Stanton bomb went 440 feet. He got injured over the weekend.
Yeah, he always does. It's not surprising.
So top 9, I don't know how to say this guy's name for the Yankees. Misevich? Misevich?
I don't have it written down, so I can't help you.
Misiewiczz.
Sure.
Misevich. Well, he's pitching. He loads the bases with a single, a walk, and another single. Hyde then pinch hits Hayes for O'Hearn. Orioles pinch hitters lead the majors with a .360 batting average this season, and Hayes himself has a career pinch hitting average of .379, and he struck out swinging. I guess that's better than a double play.
It was a horrendous strikeout too. It wasn't like, a foul tip. He just looked awful the whole time.
He might as well have gone up there without a bat.
Yeah, I mean, maybe next time he just keeps O'Hearn in there.
Santander would work a full count, but he'd get a hold of one, and Verdugo was able to haul it in with a nice running catch before meeting up with the wall. And it's 5-4 Orioles with Kimbrel coming in for the save.
Yeah, that was a great play by Verdugo, by the way, because that would have cleared the bases because there were 2 outs and everyone was running. So good catch by him. And yeah, Kimbrel for the save opportunity ended up giving up a leadoff double to Anthony Volpe. And he was driven in by Stanton to tie the game at 5 in the 9th.
Yeah, Kimbrel blows a save, and I saw the stat that Kimbrel has failed to convert all of his one-run save opportunities. So that's incredibly troubling.
That's like literally the definition of a save, I think. 3-run lead, 2-run lead, but really the one that matters is the 1-run lead.
That is a bad stat. Top 10, Santander is a ghost runner because Verdugo robbed him in the previous inning. Santander scores on the Mullins single. Mullins steals third, causing Trevino to throw the ball wildly into left, and Mullins goes home. So it's 7-5 Orioles. Teams are running on Trevino. I guess the Red Sox stole a bunch of bases against him the previous series.
Yeah, I think the book on Trevino now is to just run all over him, and the Red Sox and O's took advantage. And that brought us to the 10th with Dylan Tate on the mound. He allowed a leadoff single to put runners on first and third with nobody out. Ben Rice would hit a sac fly to score Gleyber Torres, making it 7-6. So, speaking of catchers throwing guys out, this is where we have to give props to Agley, because with one out, pinch runner Osvaldo Cabrera attempted to steal second, and Agley made a perfect throw, nailing him, clearing the bases with 2 outs, and then they got Jahmai Jones to strike out looking to end the game.
Yeah, that throw was great. And then watching Yankees cry, trying to say Mateo was blocking the base was hilarious.
I didn't think so.
No.
I mean, I've criticized Agley earlier this year, so I have to give him props, and that was a perfect throw.
Yep. So Orioles win 7-6. Eat shit Yankees. That was a great win. They won because they hit Gunnar Henderson with the pitch. He was the difference.
Yeah, that was the O's run that would have. It wouldn't have been a tie game, right? The Yankees would have walked it off in the 9th.
Yep. And Hyde called Adley's throw in the 10th the throw of the year. The O's were 6 for 20 with runners in scoring position. The Yankees were 3 for 7. The Yankees drew 9 walks, and the Orioles drew 3 walks but hit 2 batters. I did give out 3 stars again. The number 3 star was Jahmai Jones. He saw 7 pitches and 3 at-bats, all in key moments after coming in to pinch hit in the 6th. He was once the darlings of Orioles fans' eyes. Many an Orioles fan called for Jahmai Jones to be called up at one point. He never was. He was eventually released, and this is like the long con by Mike Elias to get him on the Yankees.
What was the trade? I know he came from the Angels. Was it Bundy? Bradish? Was he
I think it was
with
Cobb.
Bradish? Cobb? Okay.
Yeah. I think it was Cobb. I remember seeing him with the Tides, and I would be like, this is the guy everybody's calling for? I just didn't see it. And this is a stretch, but I'm going to give the 2nd star to Cade Povich. He was not good, especially early on, but he did battle to pitch into the 5th. He walked 5. He only gave up 1 hit and 1 run. He almost gave up the foul ball grand slam to Torres, but I thought he held his own going up against Garrett Cole with his back against the wall the whole time.
He did look a lot better than I thought he would, considering that first inning. It looked like it was a good opportunity for him to just kind of implode, but he didn't.
Nope. And the number 1 star, Brandon Hyde, he didn't fall for the Yankees' intimidation tactics. He knows they have a better team. Yankees fans found out this week that the Orioles have a better team. He knows if the Orioles stick to the plan that they can hang with any team in baseball. He was asked after the game if he thought Gunner's hit by pitch was intentional. He simply replied, I don't know, good question, which I thought was a great answer. He's focused on winning baseball games. The Yankees showed the series that they got a loser mentality, I think.
We'll see. It'll be tight throughout the rest of the year, I think.
So this brought us to Thursday, the finale, Game 74, Cole Irvin versus Luis Heel, who was 9-1 with a 2.03 ERA coming into this game.
It's a good way to preface this. Because Gunnar hit the first pitch of the game over Juan Soto's head for a double. He would score 3 batters later when Ryan O'Hearn singled, making it 1-0 Orioles after 1.
Yeah, Gunnar extended his on-base streak to 27 games, and that ball he hit was 110 miles per hour off the bat. Top second, Westberg would lead off with a single. Up comes Mullins. He hits a 2-run homer. This makes it the 19th consecutive game with an Orioles home run. Hayes strikes out. Urias walks. Henderson and Rutschman go back-to-back with singles. The bases are loaded with 1 out for Mountcastle. He's first pitch swinging. He hits a bases-clearing double. So it's 6-0 Orioles. Soto looked ridiculous on this play too.
He's not a good fielder. I actually looked up why he was a Gold Glove finalist a couple years ago because it didn't make sense to me. And essentially what I gathered was because of the games and innings limits at certain positions, there were only, I think, 5 or 6 players eligible for the Gold Glove in right field that year in the National League. And for whatever reason, he got voted one of the 3 finalists, but it wasn't because he's actually good. It was like 50% of these guys have to be finalists, and he just happened to make the cut.
I remember in the offseason when he got traded to the Yankees and people were talking about his right field defense, one of the arguments was like, oh, he might be fine out there because it's a smaller right field. I actually think it's worse for him having no room to run around out there.
Right. I mean, he's essentially a DH who has to play the field.
So after that, O'Hearn walk, Santander singles, the bases are reloaded, this time for Westberg. He becomes the 3rd Oriole hit by a pitch in 2 games, but the first one unintentionally, I believe. And it's 7-0 Orioles. There's still only 1 out by the time the Yankees get Heel out of there. He would leave with 8 hits and 1 1/3 with 7 earned runs.
Heel's ERA went up from the 2.03 that you mentioned to 2.77 after this game.
Wow. Yeah, he doesn't have much of a track record, so hopefully a start like this can derail him a little bit. Because he'd been too good for them this season and nobody saw it coming. He's thrown 33 1/3 major league innings since 2021. He's at 81 1/3 already this season.
I think that's the biggest hope opposing fans have, is that he's going to get tired because he's not used to the workload. But he clearly had a very bad day. I think it's also clear that he's a really talented pitcher.
Where did they get him? Was he an international signing?
I don't know. That's a good question. Let's
I have
check
no
him
idea.
out.
He just showed up out of nowhere. I didn't really know who he was until this year.
I didn't either, and I think part of it's because he got Tommy John a couple years ago. He signed with the Twins as an amateur free agent in 2015 and was traded by the Twins to the Yankees for Jake Cave.
Oh, come on.
Who has been like a replacement level player more or less in his career.
Yeah, he's from Hampton. He's on the Rockies now.
Yep.
Thanks, Minnesota. Jesus Christ. What are they doing up there? They traded Coulomb for nothing. They traded Cano and Cade Povich for nothing.
I don't know. Surprised the Twins aren't a train wreck. They're actually a moderately decent franchise.
Yeah, who knows what else they've done. Bottom second, Cole Irvin give up a home run to Torres. It's 7-1. And then top 3, the Orioles load the bases for the 3rd time in 3 innings. O'Hearn sacrifice flies in Henderson, who reached base 3 times in the first 3 innings of this game.
Luckily for Irvin, Heel was really bad because Irvin was also bad in this game. And that just is going to get completely forgotten and overshadowed by the O's scoring a million runs, but he wasn't good either.
Yeah, this was a tough week for Orioles starting pitching. The bottom of the 3rd, Judge hit a 2-run homer off Cole Irvin. So this reminded us that there's still a long way to go in this game, even though, it was 8-3.
Yeah. The O's got back in on the scoring in the 5th. Gunnar doubled and stole 3rd, but was then thrown out trying to score on Agley's grounder to 2nd. He was clearly just running on contact, but he was out by like a solid 30 feet, and that looked pretty bad. However, Mountcastle would reach on an error, and then Santander hit a 3-run homer to right off of Tim Hill, and it was 11-3. Tim Hill was making his first start for the Yankees after being claimed off waivers from the White Sox, so immediately hearing that phrase, off waivers from the White Sox, you have to think he's not good.
Yeah, we have to be relieved that the Orioles didn't put a claim on him, too. Like, you can't put anything past the Orioles obtaining any kind of pitching at this point.
Right. I just, like, if you can't stick on that team this year, you are not a major league player.
The Yankees would pick up 2 more off Irvin in the bottom of the 5th. He'd leave after only 4 2/3 with 5 earned runs allowed, which is especially bad when you get 11 runs of run support to work with. So it's 11-5 Orioles. Top 6, Hayes would score on a fielder's choice to make it 12-5.
They got 2 more in the 7th on an Hayes home run. I didn't write down how they scored the rest of their runs because there were just too many.
Yeah, that's it. The 2-run homer from Hayes made it 14-5.
Well, then they got 3 more though. They got
Oh, I
They
didn't
got-
write it down either then.
They got 2 more in the 8th and 1 in the 9th off of pitcher Jose Trevino, who's actually a catcher.
Yeah, I watched it. I guess I just mailed it in too.
I just got sick of writing down how they scored because these runs at the end didn't matter, but the Orioles scored in every inning except the 4th. They had 19 hits on the day and were 8 for 24 with runners in scoring position. That is, in my memory, the highest number I've ever seen of opportunities with runners in scoring position.
Right. What they have too, the game before, they had 20 opportunities the game before also.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So the Orioles improved to 5-2 in the season series against the Yankees after this. Aaron Boone arguably cost the Yankees game on Wednesday with the unwritten rules being fulfilled, which I would bet that Aaron Boone is a big believer in because he's a third generation, baseball man. So
He also likes to whine about things.
Yeah. He leads the league in ejection since he's been hired manager, I think. The 17 runs scored by Baltimore, the most since June 6, 2021 against Cleveland. It's the most runs they've scored at Yankee Stadium since scoring 18 on June 8th, 1986. This was the Yankees' 5th loss in 7 games.
The Yankees also made 3 errors, so 4 of the O's 17 runs were unearned.
Yeah, this game had Orioles fans flying high for a full day until we get to Houston. I did give out 3 stars. Westberg, just by the mere fact that he was back in the lineup. Good to know it was nothing serious. The bullpen, 3 relievers, 4 1/3, 1 win, 1 hit, no runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. And then Gunnar Henderson, 3 for 5, 3 runs, 1 RBI, 1 walk. I wonder if the cameraman he was there, almost killed last year, was there working the game.
I would imagine they've crossed paths at this point. I would hope Gunnar would have, apologized to him. I'm sure that happened.
Yeah, I remember seeing a report that he did reach out to him at some point last year.
Yeah, there you go.
Aaron Boone said after the game about the Orioles, they're about as formidable as there is. They've had their way with us.
That is true. But the Orioles would learn a good lesson in this game, and that is that one good game means you had one good game.
Yeah, you got an Astros preview?
Houston entered the series with a 35-40 record, which was actually good for second in the AL West, 8 games back of Seattle. They're scoring just about the league average number of runs per game and giving up about the same. Offensively, Kyle Tucker is having a huge season, but he had been on the IL since June 7th. Yordan Alvarez is also having a very good year, but that's not surprising. Justin Verlander just landed on the IL as well, though he's probably been their 3rd or 4th best starter this year behind Framber Valdez and Ronel Blanco. In the bullpen, Josh Hader hasn't had a great season despite the $95 million contract he signed in January. But as we mentioned, despite the fact that the Astros' record wasn't very good, they're still a talented team, and the O's certainly learned that this weekend.
Yeah, watching them this weekend reminded me why I pegged them as the team I wanted to least face in the playoffs last season.
They're very good. There's a reason they've been like the best AL team for at least. I think I said in the last episode, the Braves have been like one of the best teams the last 5 years. I feel like them and the Astros really have been the 2 most talented, complete teams, if you ask me, in that time frame.
They did all this weekend without Kyle Tucker, too.
Yeah. I guess I should throw the Dodgers in there, too, now that I say that, but whatever.
Yeah. Grayson Rodriguez versus Jake Bloss on Friday. This was Bloss's Major League debut. 3rd-round pick from Georgetown, the Astros' 10th-ranked prospect. He was called up from Double-A after starting the season with High-A Asheville. He's already in the major leagues.
Yeah, he has an interesting story. I didn't even know Georgetown had a baseball team. I hate their basketball team because I'm a Syracuse fan, but I didn't even realize. And he played at Lafayette College before that. And this is not a typical collegiate combination, so to speak, of a guy who gets picked in the 3rd round and debuts the next season.
It looked like he was wearing like a hand-me-down uniform. Did you notice that? It looked like it didn't fit.
It looked pretty big on him, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if that's his style or if it's just the new uniform crap or they just didn't have his size ready because they didn't expect to call him up from Double-A.
I think he's a pretty normal sized major league player. I would imagine he just chose it that way. But speaking of the pitching matchups, Grayson had a kind of an interesting angle to this one as well because he was born in Houston, went to high school about 2 hours away in Nacogdoches. Not sure if I'm saying that right. He made his major league debut in Arlington last year, but he had yet to pitch in Houston before this game.
Altuve would get things started with an infield single. He'd score on a 5-3 double play to put Houston up 1-0.
Houston scored again in the second after Singleton and Loper Fido singled. Jose Altuve then doubled to drive in Singleton, and it was 2-0.
Yeah, to the top of the second real quick with the Orioles. They'd strand Mullins in scoring position after Loper Fido. Is that how you say his name? He made an insane catch. The catch rate on the ball was 10%.
That was a nice grab. I think he's a prospect. I think he's been up a couple different times this year, and Houston having been good the last several years, I don't think they have a loaded prospect pool, and I think he's at the top of theirs.
So top third, Bloss throws 37 pitches in this inning. Gunnar leads off with a walk. Adley singles. There's 2 on, no out for O'Hearn. He'd hit it into a fielder's choice. O'Hearn steals second and scores on a Santander single. The Astros almost catch O'Hearn drifting towards second base, or no, Santander, but he was able to get back. It's a good thing he wasn't hurt. He came back to the base awkwardly.
Yeah, it was very awkward looking. It reminded me of Acuna getting hurt about a month ago when he was trying to change directions and get back to the bag.
Yeah, we can't lose any more guys to injury. Pitchers are position players. It doesn't matter.
No.
The Orioles would strand 2 in the inning, so the game was tied up at 2.
After 4 innings, it was tied at 2, as Billy said, and then a seemingly completely different ball game broke out in the 5th inning.
Yeah, I have something for the top of the 4th, and I feel bad. I didn't like the way Bloss was being hung out to dry, and I knew he was over pitching because it was his debut, and the Orioles were making him work during all the at-bats. He was throwing a lot of pitches. I just didn't like the vibes, and I made a post on the Verge Discord at 8:45 saying, "How long until Bloss leaves with elbow inflammation?" Which is kind of douchey, but we got our answer 35 minutes later. Bloss should have been removed after the 3rd inning. I feel like the Astros committed some malpractice with his management in this game. He was out there for the 4th. Bloss would strike out McCann for the 2nd out. He'd walk off the mound looking extremely distressed, injured, even scared and confused. It's obvious to everyone something's going on. Everyone except for Joe Espada, the Astros manager, because they allow him to start pitching to Gunnar Henderson. I couldn't believe they did him like that. They really gave no regard for the pitcher, if you ask me.
That's a good point. Also not something you want to see in a guy who's making his major league debut end up that way.
Yeah, I just felt like the vibes were off. That's why I posted that, and then when it came true, I was just like, oh shit.
Right. It is unfortunately kind of predictable these days.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that brought us to the top of the 5th. Adley would score on a Mountcastle sacrifice fly, 3-2.
Houston got the lead right back in the 5th when Alex Bregman and Yainer Diaz singled prior to a Jake Myers 3-run homer to make it 5-3 Houston.
Houston, bottom of the 6th, would send 13 batters to the plate. Let's just say that 3 different Orioles pitchers gave up 9 runs, and the score is now 14-3 Houston.
Yeah, this was the Orioles' version of the 2nd inning they had against the Yankees the other day. That's what happened in this 6th inning. It was a nightmare. With the O's down 14-3, Gunnar got 1 back with a leadoff homer in the 7th off Nick Hernandez, so it was 14-4. And then the O's had an 8th inning that almost matched the Astros' 6th inning.
I had a feeling Nick Hernandez was going to get DFA'd the next day after his performance in this game. After I looked him up, and he'd only pitched 3 games for Houston. He's a 29-year-old career minor league relief pitcher, and I was like, oh, yeah, he's gone. He was gone before noon, I think.
Let's say, though, if that was Nick Hernandez's last appearance in the major leagues, wouldn't it be kind of cool to be like, yeah, Gunnar Henderson hit a homer off me? I'd rather
Like,
that than like, oh yeah, he grounded out to second base. I think it's cooler to be like, yeah, he went deep.
what's sad is if he got DFA'd, the Orioles would probably have to claim him at this point because they need.
That's true.
So where did we leave off? It's 14-11.
No, you skipped the whole thing. It's
Oh shit! Yeah, the top of the eighth, Mateo,
Yes.
Gunnar, and Santander combined for 3 home runs.
Yeah, there you go.
Houston needed 3 pitchers to get out of the inning. The Orioles would make things interesting coming back from a 10-run deficit, but it was too much to overcome, and they lose 14-11.
And similar to that second inning against the Yankees when the O's scored a bunch of runs and Austin Hayes made 2 of the outs, this time it was Jordan Westburg making 2 of the outs in the same inning.
Ugh. Former Orioles reliever Taylor Scott got the hold for the Astros. Do you remember him? Scott played for the 2019 Orioles.
Zero recollection of that guy.
Oh, you don't remember his 8 2/3 innings and 8 appearances where he allowed 20 hits, 18 earned runs. His WHIP was 2.88, good for an 18.69 ERA.
That was when I lived in DC and I had the O's on local TV.
His big claim to fame was he was from South Africa or South America or something. I remembered him because of the Tides.
Those are very different places.
Yeah.
If his name's Taylor Scott, I'd say he's probably South African and not South American.
Yeah, I can't remember which one it is. It's 50-50.
Okay.
But I saw him. I had to pick my jaw up off the floor. I was like, is this the same guy? So I did a deep dive here. From 2019 to 2023, he appeared in 39 games. He's at 33 games already this season, and opponents are only batting, I didn't write it down, it's like 169 or something off of him this season. But yeah, Taylor Scott.
That is a blast from the past, I suppose, even though I don't remember him. By the way, he is from South Africa.
Okay, good. And then some people started to turn on Grayson after this start, and I think it's because they feel duped.
Duped about what?
I think they convince themselves that he's an ace or a number 1 starter. When, if you've been listening to us, you know that we've kind of kept those expectations in check from him this season. So I'm not mad at him. I don't feel duped, but I think a lot of people feel duped.
I think part of it too is because the O's haven't had many pitching prospects in a while. So the one they have who's actually good is going to get hyped up a lot. But I think it's something that fans often forget about is when you're comparing your team or your players to others, you have to think about where would this guy fit on like a contender, a good team. Grayson is not a number 1 starter on a World Series contender, at least not at this point in his career. That's for sure.
And if you ask me, he shouldn't have even been starting game 2 in the playoffs last year. Remember, I wanted to go Kyle Gibson, then Bradish, then Grayson. Bradish was still only in his first full season last year. This is Grayson's first full season this year. He didn't even pitch a full season last year. He had to go to the minor leagues because the first half of the season was such a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, keep your expectations in check. I think this is only his 36th career start, but a lot of people feel duped.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 36 career starts is actually a good kind of barometer for the equivalent of a whole season. And he's been, I would say, very solid, but not spectacular. His career right now, he has a 4.15 ERA, 3.82 this season. But as you said, those the career ERA is inflated by his terrible start last year. But yeah, he's a 2, maybe a 3rd starter if you have a really good team,
and he could still improve. He's still super young. He's 24, I think. But yeah, if I don't think you want him starting a game 1 or 2 in a playoff series.
He doesn't throw enough strikes, I think, but I think that's probably pretty common for younger pitchers. He has good stuff. If he can keep his pitch count down and walk less batters, he'll be very good. But I also think you could say that about a lot of pitchers, so that's not a very unique assessment.
Nope. The Astros went 7 for 14 with runners in scoring position, so that's pretty good. 3 stars. Nick Vespi, he was the only pitcher out of the 4 Orioles pitchers who had any success in this game. He needs to pitch well to stick around, and even that might not be enough for him to stick around. They're constantly looking to option him.
Right.
Adley, 5 for 5. This is his 2nd game in a row reaching base 5 times. His 2nd career 5 for 5 game. But we both know that 5th hit in the Boston game on opening day last year should have been ruled an error on Devers.
I don't remember that super clearly in my head, but
It's true.
if I said it then I'll stand by it.
And the number one star, the character of the team for not quitting when they were down by 11, I think this is set by the manager. They made Houston work for every out in this game.
It could have been worse. If it was 14-4 and I was at the game, I would have either left or just went and bought like 4 beers. But it's good that they fought to the end and made it interesting at least. But it's also frustrating when you score 11 runs and you still lose, you know?
Yeah, so they scored 28 runs in the course of 2 games and only went 1-1.
Right. That's annoying. They also made 2 more errors this game.
Oof.
I don't know what is with their
Westberg,
defense.
right?
Westberg made 1, and I believe I don't remember the other one, to be honest.
Yeah, Westberg is regressing in the field, it seems like. Maybe not having a position is a bigger deal than I might think it is.
It was
And
Santander. Sorry.
okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. When you're bouncing around all the time, how are you ever going to get used to being somewhere, you know?
And Gunner's obviously thrived at shortstop despite me crying about it earlier this season.
And I think it's different too. When you think of a typical utility man, they're not playing every day at a different position. They'll like play second base and then take a couple games off, and they'll go play some third base and so they can at least, practice at both. And I don't know. Maybe that's completely the opposite of how it works, and you'd rather be playing every day, but it does seem like it would be difficult to be bouncing around like he does.
Yeah. And then this brought us to Saturday. Corbin Burns versus Ronel Blanco. Blanco threw a no-hitter earlier this season.
Yeah, this dude has come out of nowhere. Who was it? Domingo Germán for the Yankees, who threw perfect game or a no-hitter last year, and the guy just absolutely tanked after that. And Blanco has not. He's continued to be a very good pitcher all season.
No, he was very good yesterday. He's a big guy. He's like a house.
Let's see what he's listed at.
Let me guess. I'll say 6'3", 245.
Ooh, you were very close. You were 1 digit off. He's listed at 6'3", 265.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big dude for sure.
So this had a bizarre start to the game where Gunner would get picked off first base. Then the umpires would lose track of the count in the Astros half of the inning. Bregman actually walked, struck out, and grounded out all in the same at bat.
Way to go, MLB.
Then top 2, Justin Westberg hit a solo home run and it's 1-0 Orioles. I got some numbers here.
Go ahead.
In Westberg's last 8 games, he's hitting 300 with 5 extra base hits, 5 RBI, and a 964 OPS.
At least he's making up for that fielding some. In the second inning, the Astros got on the board after Yainer Diaz led with a triple, and Mauricio Dubon was able to score him on a sac fly to tie the game at 1.
Bottom third, Yordan Alvarez is up. Masson shows his stats with 2 outs and runners in scoring position. For the season, he's only batting 160 with 3 RBI in such situations. So obviously he takes Corbin Burns deep here to put the Astros up 3-1.
Right. It's like Alex Jackson in Tampa.
Alvarez might be the only player having a better June than Santander.
Or Judge, I guess, but Alvarez is so good. He's one of those guys that's just every time he's up at the plate and you're playing against him, you're just afraid he's going to crush one.
A dog's barking.
He's agreeing that Alvarez is a scary player to face.
They actually probably could have walked him in this situation. I don't know if you want to walk a guy that early, though.
Not a bad idea. We were talking about Barry Bonds earlier, and it reminded me of the time Buck Showalter walked him with the bases loaded when he was managing the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, that's
and then
bold.
The next guy luckily blasted one, but it was straight at the right fielder for the third out. But he hit it hard. It could have been very bad.
Then in the bottom of the 5th, Burns would give up a solo home run to the 9th hitter Chas McCormick. The first time all season he gave up more than 3 runs. It's 4-1 Houston. 4 of the 5 hits allowed by Burns were for extra bases.
Not a typical Burns outing. He kind of got infected, so to speak, by the last few bad starts that the O's had coming into this game. And really there wasn't much going on again until the bottom of the 8th when friggin' Chas McCormick again went deep, this time off of Brian Baker, which is not so surprising. except it's Chas McCormick.
Yeah, McCormick was slugging .291 with 1 home run and 117 at-bats coming into this game. Then he hit 2 home runs. This was McCormick's 5th career multi-homer game, and the Astros would win 5-1.
He just sounds like a bad player. Chas McCormick.
Yeah. The Orioles pitching didn't walk anybody, so I guess that's good. And this was the first loss for Burns since May 7th in Washington.
Yeah, not a good effort when you are trying to get out of a little rut you put yourselves in the game before, you know?
Yeah, this brought us to Sunday, Suarez versus Valdez. Game number 76 on the season, I think.
This was a game where I put my kids down for their nap about 20 minutes after the game started. I sat down, was ready to watch, and it was already 4-0 Astros in the bottom of the first.
Yeah, the Astros came out swinging. Altuve led off with a home run on the first pitch. He became the first right-handed batter to homer off of Suarez all season. As Kevin Brown was saying, no one's homered off Suarez. Altuve took him deep. Suarez was not fooling anybody in this game. He gave up 4 runs on 6 hits. Somehow he only threw like 20 pitches in the inning, which was funny too.
He has a tendency to get out of stuff, but it seems like in this game the hits and runs accumulated before he always could.
Yeah, this is going to be a short recap here. The Astros in the bottom of the 4th would score on a sacrifice fly. I'm only mentioning this once again because Cowser's throw to the plate was a joke. At this point, you could do nothing but laugh. When Cowser comes up firing, all you could do is laugh.
It was like halfway up the baseline. It looked like he was trying to throw it both home and third and just nailed it right in the middle.
And like near the backstop.
Right. No, that was, I don't know what the deal is, but it was atrocious.
I guess I'm going to go off on Cowser here for a little bit in the outfield. He's a great outfielder in that he can get to any ball and he puts forth a great effort, but I think his awareness kind of sucks. He hit his head off the wall yesterday trying to rob a home run. He also skidded into the right field foul corner where the wall takes like a bend. He skidded, which, you know, that's unfortunate, but he still banged into the wall. Like, you're still responsible for your body out on the field.
Right.
And then we've seen him almost collide with other outfielders on basically routine balls. He's not the only one. O'Hearn and Mullins almost collided. There's been a bunch of just bizarre routine collisions in the outfield. And yeah, I think Cowser just lacks some self-awareness out there.
A loose cannon out there. I don't know what his deal is.
That's a great way to put it. That might be the name of the episode.
Where were we? In the 4th inning, the Astros scored.
Yeah, then top of the 6th, Westberg hit his 2nd home run in 2 days. He's single-handedly keeping that home run streak alive. I think it's up to 22.
Bottom 6, though, the Astros got back on the board. Jeremy Pena doubled, driving in Alex Bregman and Yainer Diaz, and it was 7-1 Astros.
And I don't even know how the Astros would score another run. I don't think it's important how. And this game was over. It's 8-1. Orioles lose.
They got absolutely smoked in this series.
It almost felt like they got no hit today. That's how like brutal of a watch this was.
I think this was probably very humbling for them. And it does seem like they kind of mentally weren't ready after that big, intense series against the Yankees and taking 2 of 3 that they came down and just weren't ready.
Yep, I agree. I think there was an emotional hangover from that Yankee series. I think the Astros are picking up, they're playing better baseball than they had been. They're still a good team. This was their worst series since Adley got called up, because even that Cardinals series where they got swept a couple weeks ago wasn't this bad. They were still in those games. The best part of this series was Saturday's game being only 2 hours and 8 minutes.
Right. I guess, we talked about the emotional hangover, but this will also be a good test seeing how well they're able to just take a bad series and flush it and move on, or if it's going to linger.
Yeah, because there's no days off. They still got another 8 games, I think, in a row before a day off. And when they do have a day off, it's a huge travel day. I think they go to Seattle
You're right. They go from Baltimore to Seattle on their one day off. So
Yeah, thanks.
unless they go, yeah. And the night before that actually is Sunday night baseball. So it's not like a travel getaway day.
Jeez, that is not great. I have one note from the Orioles Muse Twitter account. He put out there, Orioles starting pitchers in the last 6 games, 30 innings pitched, 25 earned runs, 36 hits, 6 home runs, 22 strikeouts, 17 walks. That doesn't even count all the hit batters.
Yeah, that's very bad. As opposed to their streak of great starts. I mean, everything kind of evens out in the end. That's what they say, regressing to the mean. That's kind of what happened here. And hopefully their mean is a little better than how they've been playing lately.
Do we have any other thoughts on this Astros series? Do you think they'll make any roster moves this week? I guess Nick Maton is on high alert. Nick Vespi should always have a go bag.
I don't know. You always know better than me about what the fringes of the roster are looking like and who may or may not be coming up or down.
The Tides are in town this week. I imagine we'll be seeing another Dean Kremer rehab start since his went so poorly. So hopefully I can get to that, see how he looks. Hopefully he only makes one more rehab start. Hopefully he
doesn't have it pushed back or something. Who knows if he's healthy.
Yeah, Hyde commented on his rehab start today post game. He said, quote, not ideal.
Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah. Who we got coming up this week?
The O's are heading back to Baltimore to play Cleveland Monday through Wednesday, and then Texas Thursday through Sunday. So another good team in Cleveland, and kind of like the Astros, the Rangers are a team that's not having a great season, but you can't take them lightly.
Yeah, and Cleveland's very good. No shared mailbag this week. I didn't find any I liked. So you ready to take a Quizturis?
Sure, let's do it.
So in honor of the Rickwood game, in an effort to learn about the Negro Leagues, this quiz is 21 questions about the Negro Leagues.
Okay. I probably won't know too much about them, to be honest.
Right, me either. So this might not be fun, but, it is necessary.
Let's do it.
Can you answer these 21 questions about baseball's Negro Leagues? 21 questions, 4 minutes. If we can get 8 here, I'll be happy.
Shoot for 8.
The Hilldale Athletic Club played their home games near this city: Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, or Washington?
No clue.
No idea. Let's say Philadelphia. That's correct.
Good job.
This Negro League Hall of Famer is reputed to have hit more than 800 home runs, though only about 200 were in league competition. Oscar Charleston, Josh Gibson, Buck Leonard, or Judd Wilson? This is Josh Gibson.
It's got to be Josh Gibson.
Yep, 2 for 2. Which Hall of Fame inductee did not own a team in the Negro Leagues? Effa Manley, Alex Pompez, Jacob Rupert, J.L. Wilkinson. Want to throw a guess out there?
No, I don't.
We'll say Jacob Rupert. Ooh, 3 for 3.
Wow.
Which player with a wildlife-inspired nickname did not suit up in the Negro Leagues? Newt Allen, Mudcat Grant, Turkey Stearns, or Mule Suttles? I know Turkey Stearns is real. Mule Suttles is real too. I think. I'm going to say Newt Allen.
Sure.
It's Mudcat Grant.
Mudcat Grant.
Which team is not a Negro League team? The Atlanta Black Crackers, the Indianapolis ABCs, the New York Cubans, or the St. Louis Saints? It's either Indianapolis or St. Louis.
I don't know.
I think Indianapolis was the Clowns.
I've heard of them, yeah.
Let's say Indianapolis ABCs. It's the St. Louis Saints.
Darn.
The Homestead Grays played most of their home games in the cities. This is Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yep. Which of these Negro League executives in the Baseball Hall of Fame was also a manager? Rube Foster, Frank Grant, Alex Pompez, or Cumberland Posey?
I know Rube Foster did a lot of things. That would be my guess.
This Negro League star was the first Cuban inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Martin Dihigo, Jose Menendez, Alejandro Alms, or Cristobal Torrente?
Torrente I've heard of.
Let's do it. It's Martin Dihigo. 1924, this team won the first Negro League World Series. The Birmingham Black Barons, Kansas City Monarchs, Newark Eagles, or Pittsburgh Crawfords?
No idea.
No idea. There's 13 questions left. There's 90 seconds left. Let's just say the Monarchs. Hey, that's correct.
Nice.
This one-time Kansas City Monarchs player and manager, later a scout and coach for the Chicago Cubs, led the effort to establish the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. Oscar Charleston, Andy Cooper, Dizzy DeMukes, Buck O'Neill.
Buck O'Neill.
Correct. This Negro League team played their home games at Greenleaf Field. Chicago American Giants, New York Cubans, Pittsburgh Crawfords, St. Louis Stars. Say the Cubans.
Sure.
Nope, it's the Crawfords. Who was the first Negro League veteran inducted to the Baseball Hall of Fame? Hank Aaron, Campanella, Willie Mays, or Jackie Robinson?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, my guess is Campanella or Robinson.
So these are guys who obviously played in the majors after the Negro Leagues.
Right.
The first one.
Let's say Robinson.
I'm just trying to think of the era they were in.
Right.
Well, yeah, I guess Jackie was obviously the first in the major leagues, and he didn't play a particularly long time, so I would guess him.
Yep, that's correct. Satchel Paige said this Negro League star and Baseball Hall of Famer was so fast he could flip the light switch and be in bed before the room got dark. Cool Papa Bell, Oscar Charleston, Pop Lloyd, Cristobal Torrente. Let's say Cool Papa Bell.
Sure.
Yep. Willie Mays played one season in the Negro Leagues with this team before signing with the New York Giants. The Birmingham Black Barons. Yep. We're out of time. So technically we got 10 to 21. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So there's 7 questions left. I guess you're on the hook.
So we're 10 of 14 right now?
Right. What Baseball Hall of Famer and Negro League star was nicknamed the Devil for his intensity on the field? Oscar Charleston, Martin DeHigo, Judy Johnson, or Willie Wells?
I have no clue.
How about Willie Wells?
Okay.
Judy Johnson, though, I went to a Wilmington Blue Rocks game in Wilmington, Delaware, and they had a statue of him out front. I think it's called like Judy Johnson Field at something stadium, maybe.
I've actually been to the Wilmington Blue Rocks Stadium, and I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, this would have been 2007, I think.
Okay.
In February of 1920, owners met in this city to form the first of the Negro Leagues, the Negro National League. Chicago, Kansas City, Nashville, or New York City?
Chicago.
Do you know where the Negro League Hall of Museum
is? It's in Kansas
is?
City, yeah.
Yeah. Which player did many Negro League executives expect to be the first to break the color barrier? Campanella, Josh Gibson, Monty Irvin, or Satchel Paige? I'll give you a hint. It's the one guy you haven't heard of on this list.
Campanella, Josh Gibson, Monty Irvin, or something. I've heard of Monty Irvin. He's the least popular, but...
Right, that's fair. Yep, that's the answer.
He played for the Giants, right?
I don't know. That was the only name I didn't recognize.
I think he did.
Which team was not a Negro League team? The Baltimore Elite Giants, the Brooklyn Royal Giants, the Chicago American Giants, or the New York Giants?
New York Giants?
Yep, that's correct.
So Monty Irvin played, for the New York Giants from 49 to 56. He led the league in RBIs in 1951, 121.
That would be cool to go to Kansas City and go to that museum.
I'd like to. I've been wanting to go there for a while because in my quest to go to all the stadiums, I guess haven't been to Kansas City. But they've got that. They also have, I guess, a great World War I museum there. And they're known for having good barbecue. I think it would be a cool place.
They got another team there, the Kansas City Monarchs. They took over the branding with permission from the museum. They were the Kansas City T-Bones. So there's a independent league team named the Monarchs to play in Kansas City. I think the stadium's nice too.
Interesting.
There's a cool podcast from Sirius called Black Diamonds that the guy's, I'm blanking on his name, who does the museum stuff. I can't remember. He's on the podcast. Oh, Bob Kendrick. That's his name.
He's like the president of the museum, right?
Yeah. There's Black Diamonds. Those are pretty good. There can't be many more left. The Baseball Hall of Fame commissioned a committee on Negro baseball leagues beginning in 1971. Who was the first Hall of Famer elected by the committee? Oscar Charleston, Rube Foster, Josh Gibson, or Satchel Paige?
Rube Foster.
Nope, Satchel Paige.
Dang.
Whose son was named Satchel? Oh, Chuck McElroy's son.
McElroy, yeah.
Yeah. The Kansas City Monarchs brought what baseball innovation to the Negro Leagues in 1930? Batting gloves, batting helmets, catching gear, or night baseball games?
Oh, geez. Night baseball.
Night baseball. That's correct. There's still more questions. This all-star pitcher is the son of a Negro League ace pitcher. Vida Blue, Doc Ellis, J.R. Richard, or Louis Tiant?
I do not know the answer to that.
Tiant.
Oh.
That's it. We did really well, I think.
Definitely better than I thought we would.
Yeah, I think we had 15 or 16. I don't know. Do the math if you if you're listening.
Right.
Tell us how we did. But yeah, I guess that's it. Birdlandsports.com if you want t-shirts. You got anything else?
I don't. Hope the O's can turn it around and start playing better at home.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
actually, one more thing. Monty Irvin's baseball reference page is in front of me. His nickname, Mr. Murder.
Ooh, Mr. Murder. Yeah, R.I.P. Mr. Murder.
I like that.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody.